Jaine Merliss, and I think I know most of you here today. So we are going to make something called Avgolemono. So while this is decompressing a little bit, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this soup. And I took some steps ahead of time to so that we wouldn't be sitting around and twiddling our thumbs. Avgolemono is in fact a lemon and rice soup. And while the orzo is cooking, or the rice, if you prefer, I'll give you kind of the history behind it and what it means. Did you want me to move?
Yes, a little bit closer. That's good.
So the steps that I took previously, I scrubbed 2 big fat carrots. They don't have to be pretty because they're actually going to get tossed. Scrubbed carrots and a big beautiful leek. And the leek, you just cut off the end parts of the green and split it in half. And a nice big fat yellow onion, and I cut mine into 8s. I didn't chop it. You can chop it, but when you make the broth, which is what we're doing now, so I put those in the Instant Pot or the pressure cooker, or we'll talk about how else you can make it. And I put about 3 pounds is called for 4, but 3.5 pounds of large chicken breasts that have bone in and skin on. And that's just really to make this wonderful chicken broth, probably not unlike much of what you've made all along. I got this Instant Pot a few months ago, and my husband came with a pressure cooker. It was a perk. So I started using one a little bit when we were in our earlier years together. But I remember my mother's pressure cooker had this like tea kettle rattly thing on it, and it was terrifying. And so took me a while to get a little comfortable with it. And now I find I use this Instant Pot several times a week, but you don't need to, because there's nothing we're doing today that's magic. And you can use a big soup pot on the stove and do the exact same thing. So what you would do is put your onion and carrots, 2 bay leaves, and split leek, and your chicken breast in your stock pot, and just cook it as you would for soup. I would say a couple hours, maybe longer, till it's good look, till you're happy with it. The other way that you can do this is, if you do have a slow cooker, you can put all of the ingredients that I have loaded into the stock pot into your slow cooker and cook it on low for 8 hours, or cook it on high for 4 hours. So really, there's nothing magic about the Instant Pot. I'm just lazy, and like quickly, I'm very much into instant gratification. So I use it quite a bit, and I can, from start to finish, is 30 minutes or less. So while I will be showing you on this Instant Pot, please feel free to ask me any questions at any time. So our Instant Pot, our chicken should now be done. And let me see, any questions yet? No, okay. So cover your ears. I'm going to release the steam. This is the scary part, but you don't have to jump under the table.
I could just picture what my dogs would do with that.
If I were at home, I would just leave this and let it sit for a while and cool off. But we want to get moving. There we go. Almost there. I'm making a little bit of a mess.
That's okay.
But it's not my kitchen, so there's that. Thank you, Jenny. So I feel like I would have set this up far enough ahead of time to have it done, but I got to tell you, I got caught in traffic today. It was tumbling. You think I'd know by now.
You want to let folks know that they can just sort of talk like they're in the kitchen?
So go ahead and talk like you're in the kitchen with me. If I can't hear you over this, Jenny can. And we are about 2 to 3 minutes ready to be done with this. And I'm going to take the chicken out, and Jenny's going to be my sous chef, and she's going to take the meat off of the bones and discard the skin and the bones and shred the chicken. And there'll be a lot of it, because they will use. And probably not all of it will go to the soup. The ingredients that I have listed came from this wonderful cookbook, and I've tried a couple different iterations. I love lemon, so I love the tartness of it. So I tend to use, it calls for a third to half a cup. A half a cup is plenty. I found that more than half a cup is too much. And you can always add it a little bit later. The next step that we're going to do, once I remove all the kishkis from the, from the Instant Pot, is we're going to put the orzo in and boil it. I've not used orzo a lot. It's actually a pasta. It looks like a grain, but it looks like rice. But can we see that? But it's actually not. It's little pasta, and you buy it in the pasta aisle. But you can most certainly use rice if you prefer it. I've tried this soup with rice instead of orzo pasta. Here.
It's so good with orzo.
I like it with the orzo.
Yeah, I do too.
Who are maybe not wanting gluten or something and may prefer rice. You could put brown rice in there. I think it'd be a little different, but you could. But when I made it with the rice, I really had much better luck cooking the rice separately and adding it to the soup at the end, rather than trying to cook the soup in the rice. It just didn't work.
Yeah, it gets too big. It just blows up too much. But what was it that you showed? I couldn't tell.
The orzo.
This is a box of orzo pasta.
Well, I find rose too. It soaks up a lot of the soup. So I like the idea of adding it pretty much at the end.
You know, the recipe calls for 1 to 1.5 cups of orzo. It really depends on how much liquid is in your pot as to how much orzo you want to put in there. But I really had better luck with just 1 cup. I found that any more than that was just too much pasta in the soup, but it's always a little bit different. So now I'm just waiting for it to calm down so I can open it, and we will take out the chicken.
While you're doing that, let me read to you from Maimonides' Book of Health. Maimonides in the 12th century said one should take a little bit of soup to maintain your strength, which gives nourishment, like chicken soup, meat broth, yolk, or soft-boiled eggs. And he also has a recipe in my Sephardic Cooking book. So this is ancient, really. This is magnificent, what you're showing us. Maimonides chicken soup, says the author, reminds me of the one that my Andalusian grandmother used to make. It was also mentioned in the Spanish Inquisition trial records of the 16th century. Isn't that cool?
That is.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Really, we learned, you know, when I was kind of looking into not just Sephardic, but specifically Ladino cooking, which is what this is actually. It has a completely different history. I feel like I have a really loud voice, but I'm told that I can be a little hard to hear. Except by my parents. They were appalled that I could make so much noise. In fact, my mother, completely unrelated, my mother used to tell me that I came down the stairs, the dishes in the kitchen cabinet would rattle.
It's a little bit echoey, the way the sound is coming through.
Okay.
Echoey.
Do others find it that way?
Can you hear it though, Irene?
Yeah, I can hear it, but it just sort of feels like an echo. I mean, like it's just not real close to the microphone, I guess.
Let me mute. Let me go here.
I have my video off because I'm actually, I have something in my hot pot that needs to be shredded. I have an Italian beef thing going on here.
Okay.
Speaker.
All right, so here's what we have done. I now have this chicken broth, which may or may not need salt. I don't tend to add too much extra salt. So, so I keep it at the table for people that like it. So the next step that you have the broth, I'm going to boil the pasta for about 9 minutes or so. If you have a stock pot, you just put it in the broth. If you have the slow cooker, if you could turn it up enough to make it boil pasta, you could put it in there. Otherwise, you might want to just cook it separately. So I'm going to turn this off, back on, saute. Hi.
Did you want me to do?
Please. So my lovely sous chef is going to take all of the skin and bones off, and we'll have all this extra chicken. Now it's probably too much to go in the soup, but you could use it like you do anything else for salads or casseroles. I don't know. What do you like to do with extra chicken? Do you have any favorite?
I like to make a stir fry with all the leftover vegetables, chicken, everything, and put it over rice and make a really good sauce.
Nice.
And I have a delicious Asian salad, chicken salad that has cilantro and basil and red cabbage and almonds and a really good light dressing.
Is that Irene that just said that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold the cilantro.
It's wonderful.
It's from a cookbook called Milk Street. Christopher somebody.
Yeah, that's from America's Test Kitchen.
Used to be Cooks Illustrated
Yeah.
editor. All right, I am actually going to put a little salt in here because I'm pretty sure we'll need it. Then I have 1 cup of orzo, and I'm just going to dump it in here. It's probably even a little too much. And we're going to let that boil for about 10 minutes. And we'll just visit for a while. So I want to tell you a little bit about this soup. You know, probably when you've come across this before, it's been more probably aligned with a Greek restaurant. They have, but quite honestly, it's purely Sephardic. It comes from a base called a grista, I believe, which is a lemon and an egg and lemon sauce, which is what we're going to make here in just a moment. And it really has often been considered a cornerstone of Sephardic cooking. But it is actually Ladino, and it followed the Inquisition from Spain into Greek areas, and also somewhat into Turkey, and mostly into the Greek port of Thessalonica. Oh, I'm going to look at this. Thessalonica. And there were many Jews in Salonika, quite actually. There was recently, in Books and Looks, I put in a series that takes place in Turkey, but it is about survivors of Salonika. There were about 77,000 Jews in the Greek area after the Inquisition, all the way up to World War II, and about 50,000 of those Jews were in Salonika, and there was in fact a concentration camp in Greece, which I didn't really know, and that's where it was, in Salonika. And so the Sephardic Ladino cooking became very popular. Ladino music is haunting and beautiful. It sounds very Spanish to my ear. We could.
Remind me the difference between Sephardic and Ladino.
Well, Ladino is Sephardic. I mean, it comes from, and Rabbi, please help me here to fill this in. I don't want to give false information.
Ladino is like Yiddish. So it's a mixture of Hebrew and Spanish from medieval times. And Yiddish is medieval German mixed with Hebrew. And if you were in Poland or Lithuania or wherever you were, you mixed in a few Russian words, whatever the local words were. But it was, so we have Ladino and we have Yiddish.
So Ladino is the language and Sephardic is the culture,
Right.
or the geographic region.
Exactly.
I think that's right. But Ladino feels like it has culture component to it as well. And I only say this from my personal observation. My husband has his sister married into a Ladino family. So so everything that we're making in this series, I have learned from them. So for instance, this soup, which is basically chicken and rice and lemon, the lemon and the eggs became a thickener. It was kind of for dietary reasons. It seems very creamy when it's done, but there's no cream in it. But also this soup is used in Turkey, actually, and in Greece as well, for break the fast. It's a traditional break the fast food. And we had it for the first time. I had it at my sister-in-law's after her funeral, actually. And so I associate it as comfort food, I think. And to be honest, I don't remember if it was with rice or with orzo at that time. So yeah, it comes from the Balkan states as well, and that's where this comes from. The last recipe we'll be doing is bizcochos, also called biscotas, is another word for it. And it's a hard cookie that is, yeah, it took some knitting. They went over pretty well, but that is also associated with breaking the fast. And they dip it in very sweet Turkish coffee, sweet, strong coffee. Yes. That my brother-in-law says, kifte. So we are now, while this is boiling, I'm going to take you to the next step. And the next step is when we're going to make the lemon and egg sauce. So,
You can do up here.
okay, I'll do more up here.
Let me see here.
Okay, so I'm going to break 4 eggs into a larger bowl.
Jane, do you bring your eggs to room temperature?
If I remember,
Okay.
for this particular recipe, I don't think it's as important as it is for some recipes that I'm baking, I find.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and mix this with a whisk, these 4 eggs, and slowly I have 1/2 cup of fresh lemon juice, because it's just so much better. And some of you may have lemon trees. Do you have lemon trees in Sedona? I know we have pomegranate. Or you know people in Scottsdale who have lemon trees.
Anita had a lemon tree in California, but not one here.
I love the idea that you can go out in your yard and orange or grapefruit or lemon.
Yes.
That would just make me feel.
It's so great. In LA, we have lemons, clementinas, and oranges. Just reach your hand out the window and pick something. Great.
That's wonderful.
It was wonderful. And grapefruit.
Grapefruit, yeah. Espoliot, nachon? Espoliot, grapefruit. Let's try to remember the name for it. Okay, we have 5 minutes left to boil, and we'll get to the tricky part. So the thing about making this sauce. It's a little bit of like making hollandaise, if you've made hollandaise before, which is, thank you, difficult, I think. Maybe you want to wipe this off a little bit. I made a mess. The thing is, you want to temper the eggs so they're going to curdle, because certainly from the temperature and because there's lemon in them. So what we're going to do, and we are actually almost done with our soup. In about 5 minutes, when the orzo is done, we're going to turn it off or down to low and temper the eggs by taking 2 cups of hot stock and slowly beating them into to this mixture. Once I've done that, it's like me, I will pour it back in, but you have to just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And it gets to be this wonderful, beautiful, thick, creamy, lemony sauce.
Jane, you have to cool off the soup a little before you do it so you don't get scrambled eggs?
You know, if you do it slowly enough, you don't need to, because then it cooks the egg enough to be safe as you put it back in, and then you add the chicken back in and you are ready to serve. But you know, some of this maybe takes just, you know, I have only made this in the Instant Pot. I haven't done it on a stovetop. I've certainly done this with, as we all probably have, making custards and cream for cream pies and things. It's the same principle. You just want to invite the lemon and eggs to become acquainted with the hot broth and all be good friends before you throw them in the pot together. And it seems to work.
That was poetic. That was memorable.
I'm impressed.
Well, my doctorate's in communication. Nope, not cooked yet. Well, you know, I would rush this, but it's going to be dinner for Jenny and Will, so we want to not mess that up. If it was just Andy, it'd be like, yeah, deal with the crunchy orzo, you'll get it. But not for company. Any other?
Have you used tricolor orzo at all?
Not in the soup, because
Not
I
at,
just like sort of the clean appearance of the whiteness, because when you add this lemon and egg, it becomes so white. I sort of associate that with Yom Kippur as kind of, but it would be really pretty. If I was going to make a wonderful salad with orzo and maybe put some Kalamata olives in there, some feta, mint or something like that, maybe some currants, that tricolor orzo, don't you think it'd be pretty?
I didn't hear you.
I think if I were going to make a salad,
Yeah.
orzo pasta salad, and put some Kalamata olives in it or some feta, maybe some fresh mint, I think that the tricolor orzo would be really.
I have had it with feta and olives, which is delicious.
Yeah, it seems like it would lend itself to that pretty nicely. This is a watch pot in the boiling, the whole thing. It's true. And I don't know, you may have picked up after, you know, working with me now that patience is not my long suit. I think I mentioned it. I really like instant gratification. So I'm not just waiting. If you are going to be joining us next week, next Tuesday, staying tuned for the lamb and cilantro, although Rabbi, I know you hate cilantro. I'm not a fan either. Stuffed and pomegranate stuffed in what is supposed to be quince. But we're going to use pears because I couldn't find a quince to save my life. I'm not even sure I know what it is. It's sort of somewhere between an apple and a pear that's supposed to be very firm. I think I could get it at a Persian market if I were in one. But that is another more Mizrachi or Iranian dish that smells wonderful. So, but that's pachkarai. So we're gonna be doing lots of pachkara next week.
So I have two questions, if you have a moment.
I have so many moments.
Okay. First of all, is your hot pot an instant pot?
It is a Breville, but they all
Oh.
function pretty much the same.
Okay, because I have an instant pot and I just worry that where you turn the knob to go from steam to not steam is so loose that I always wonder whether it's really closed or open. I've never had a failure, but I was just curious whether it's the way it's supposed to be. But if you have a different brand, then you wouldn't necessarily be able to know.
So we got both of our bonus daughters instant pots and that brand, and I would be happy to ask them. In fact, I used Mimi's once when I went to make her chicken soup when she put her tonsils out, and I don't remember that.
It hardly seems like it's turning or doing anything, but it seems to work. But I just always wondered whether it was defective or supposed to be like that. And my other question is, I've never heard the term temper before in conjunction with cooking. Is that a common technique?
It is a technique that you use when you're adding something hot, boiling hot, very slowly, so that you don't curdle usually eggs.
Oh.
So for instance, if you're making a type of meringue that has hot simple syrup poured into it, you would temper it by very slowly dribbling it and stirring like a maniac at the time. But usually when I have used it in cooking, it has been you add something hot in a small amount to something room temperature before you combine them. So that's like, I've never studied this, but that's how I have seen it before. So I'm going to take one dipper.
Do you want a ladle?
I'm not sure I understand. Well, I'm not sure I understand either, so just sit quietly. I'm sorry. That was my watch talking to me.
That's scary.
Enough going on. So now in this bowl, I have the lemon juice and the 4 eggs beaten together, and I am slowly, a couple of tablespoons at a time.
I'm gonna bring this. This might not look very good in the recording, but I'm gonna lift it up like this so that you can see a little
We don't
better.
want motion sickness. There's one. I'm gonna do it again.
You probably can't see much, can you?
We see the hand movement, which is important. I also did.
The color's fading out.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so in this bowl, I just have the two together. I have turned off the Instant Pot. So it's hot, but it's not cooking. And I'm going to slowly add, and it immediately turns white.
So let's see.
Yeah, there's no way to show you this, but I'm going to dish it up and then you'll be able to see it. Oh, it's gorgeous.
That's not fair that we can't see
I
it.
know, I really thought you say that.
Maybe I could get
Oh, I
a,
wish you could smell it. What? You know,
let me see here. I wonder if I disconnect this and take it over there. Let's see how far I can get.
we are we're almost done.
Hold on just a sec. Let me see if I can walk it a little closer.
So now all I have left to do is I'm going to add the chicken.
Can you turn it a little bit or? I don't think no. Can you see anything? I can't see what you're seeing. No?
Yeah.
No.
Oh
okay.
yeah, they could see inside it a little bit. So this is just shredded chicken, and I'm going to add about as much. I don't know if I'll add all of it, but I'm going to add quite a bit of it until it has a good thick feel to it. It's pretty hearty meal.
So all the vegetables that you cooked for the broth, those just get discarded?
Or you can use them for something different if you wanted to. But yes, for the most part, they get discarded. You know, when you put vegetables in a pressure cooker or cook them in a slow cooker, they kind of lose. I did have a ladle here. Is there a ladle?
You have one? Yeah, it's disappeared.
Oh, goodness. Here it is. You know, they kind of lose their body and their color. So I'm going to go ahead and dish this up.
It's done already?
It is done. I would let it continue to cook a little while and thicken up on low. Yeah, low or medium. I'm going to let it bubble a little bit because when it's done cooking, or like if you reheat it, it's a very thick, creamy broth. Right now, it's not so much, but
So you just put some lemon on there?
I do. This is
Hold on just a second.
Avgolemono. And let me be sure.
Let me see if I can get the lighting a little better.
To consider putting some chopped up parsley on top.
I think that would be beautiful.
Or some cilantro.
Yeah, some cilantro. She's messing.
Might have some, let's see here.
I think parsley would be beautiful. I think
We have both parsley and cilantro.
let's put a little parsley on top. A little curly parsley.
Okay.
Ooh, throw. Let's take some here.
And here's some cilantro.
Yeah. And
Oh, taster.
there you go.
Let's see here.
There you go. Any questions?
Lovely.
Look,
I wish we could get the lighting better here. Because let's see
Well, you
here.
know, the picture on the.
You know what? It would probably show up better in a darker plate.
I'm just, okay, I just turned down.
It could be, but actually the picture, oh my gosh, the picture in, on the recipe is very much what it looks like.
How about
Ooh,
there?
Okay.
Wait a second.
There.
oh,
That's good.
Yeah, that's it. Ooh,
oh,
Mm.
that looks,
that's
that
beautiful.
looks exactly what it looks like.
Doesn't that look amazing?
Yes.
Can you take a screenshot of that and a picture of Jane, and we can put that on the website under our special programs?
I can't take a screenshot because I'm holding the camera. I'm
I-
holding the webcam.
I can't because I just don't know how.
You don't know how to do a screenshot?
Command Shift 4.
Or -3.
Right, but I'm on an iPad.
If you hold
No.
it, Jamie, I could,
Hold it still, I'm doing it.
oh, you know what? I could get one with the, afterwards, from the recording.
Okay, good.
I can get it if you hold it still. Okay, got it.
And
Got it?
get one in, all elegant at the other end of the table there.
Like that. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great. Let's see, Jan.
Okay, I'm gonna put the camera back here so that Jane can talk and we can watch you taste it.
Okay.
It- Can't see her face.
Okay.
There we go. Cook's reward.
Needs to cook down a little bit and it needs a whole bunch more salt. But
More salt and cook down, you mean to get thicker?
like I'm bubbling it now, so I just had put too much water in, I think. when
Let's
I-
take the magazine shot. That's it.
That's perfect. Let me get one of that. Do it again. Our resident chef.
I guess.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming and sitting in on this.
No, thank you.
Fun to cook with friends. And I think we are pretty close to being able to gather in the kitchen and do this all at once.
Doing it all together and serving it and having a dinner together where we break bread and eat this food together.
Olavai.
Cook with
Oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
So thank you. So we have 2 more of these. I'll post the recording of this on our YouTube. Okay, so the same place where the Talmud and the Book of Daniel recordings are posted. I'll post this in the same on the same link. If you know of anybody else that wants to watch it. Thank you, Janie. And we also want to publicly thank Richard Whitland, the chair of the Adult Jewish Education Committee. Go ahead. It's not too late.
You know, he is such a dedicated leader and person, and when he's asked to do something, he goes deep and does the research. And they are traveling today, so he may see this later, but Richard, thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Yeah, our fearless leader in adult Jewish education.
And Rabbi as well.
And
Thank you,
Rabbi, yeah. Rabbi, did you want to add anything more on Sephardic culture?
just that as our ancestors moved from country to country, we did everything we could to keep to kashrut and to adapt to the local spices and recipes and seasons of foods, so that for Passover, for Purim, for every one of our holidays, there was a local version of the foods. And that's why we're so lucky to have books like this. I have Sephardic Cooking book, Jerusalem cookbook, the Book of Jewish Food. I have all these cookbooks that follow the history and the geography of our diaspora. And we actually gained from the widespread of travel and living conditions. And we really need to do in our generation, the embracing of all of these different cultures, of all of these different kinds of recipes and spices and customs. And in Israel, you see like 80 different country customs coming together, different tastes and smells and languages. And we live in a wonderful time for expressing differences and embracing them, and not looking and saying, oh, your cooking smells, but saying, oh, how marvelous is that aroma. And so I thank you so much, Jane, for bringing this to us. And this is a continuation of our Fun to Cook with Friends series. I bless you all. May you have good nourishment of body and soul.
Amen.
amen.
One of the reasons that we wanted to do a program like this was because last year we did a lot of Ashka Cook. Actually, going back even to the series of classes that we had on racism here in America, I think in the aftermath of the George Floyd incident, we focus a lot on to be Jewish and to eat Jewish foods, and is not just Ashkenazi, which we're so familiar with, you know, in the U.S. But Jewish foods is, Sephardic cooking is every bit as much as of Jewish culture and heritage and tradition around the world. And I thank you for familiarizing us more with this style of cooking, because we forget it. We tend to forget it in the U.S., where there aren't as many Sephardic Jews, at least not in the Southwest and in California. Maybe in the East Coast, there's more.
I've heard it referred to as Ashke normal.
Yeah.
So we're learning.
Yeah.
There are actually Sephardic synagogues in New York.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Not so much out here, you know. Yeah.
Isn't there a Sephardic synagogue in Phoenix?
I believe there is. But
There was.
There is a brand new Moroccan kosher restaurant that just opened up in Scottsdale just recently, called Fata Morgana, I believe it's called.
Wow.
It's kosher, and I'm very excited to go give it
Oh,
a try.
sounds like a field trip.
I think it's
Yes.
Let's go for a field trip. I love it.
that'd be very cool.
Oh, my friend, I wanted to add one more thing. I'm working with a woman from India who's an artist, and she and I are working on combining a commentary on Torah portion Bahalotecha, which is where Miriam complains and gets stricken with Sara'at, whatever that
Yeah.
white scaly disease is. And she's doing an incredible art piece, an animated art piece, exactly talking about othering people of color.
Mm.
I'll tell you more about it when we get to it, but this has got to be one of our themes about
This is Sion.
understanding of who is Jewish and other kinds of people, and not othering. I think that's really what it is. And it all starts with this soup.
Right.
Yeah.
But is that the artist that was part of the Women's Havara program on women architecture?
Yes, Siona Benjamin.
Yeah,
Benjamin.
Sienna. Yeah, she was wonderful.
She has a wonderful website and beautiful items on it. I was able to get some for myself.
Thank you. I'd love to taste that soup. Looks great.
Take care. Thank you.
Great. Okay, guys, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next
Oh.
Tuesday at 3 o'clock.